So it would be the working group that kind of corresponds to priority action area 3, which is protecting and promoting the mental health and psychosocial well-being of staff and volunteers. And the group meets every sort of 6 weeks. We offer 2 sessions. Before used to be the same day, but Ines and me, I realized that that wasn't really sustainable for us. So now we do it in 2 different days, consecutive, back to back. And yeah, we do offer Spanish for one of the sessions that is more kind of directed to the Americas, where we usually have Colombian Red Cross, Canadian Red Cross, and American Red Cross. So we have 17 kind of members in paper, but 12 active members. As you can see, we have kind of lost the national societies in Africa, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as a risk and challenge, and some MENA as well, and some of the European ones are not also super active. So that's something that we really need to work on. In terms of course, every priority area has some outputs and activities that were already outlined in the roadmap, and these are the ones that we have, and the activities that we have as a working group based on the roadmap identify are to sort of have focal points, what we talked about this morning for staff and volunteer well-being. Also conduct trainings for managers and other leaders or events, awareness raising events on the importance of staff and volunteer well-being. And the third activity that we have identified is set up systems to support staff and volunteers' mental health and psychosocial well-being. So this is more or less the framework that we have to identify to work on. And then we have also established some indicators. And then you can see on the right hand there, the status on those. The first one was the number of identified focal points on mental health and psychosocial well-being. So what we've done there so far is to insert that kind of, or tweak the question that we had on focal points in cooperation with Working Group 1 in the global survey to get a baseline on this. So this is how far we've gotten, and now we're analyzing that and actually sort of discussing how do we move with this activity, and that we will continue to discuss here. I hope that we get also feedback on a bit more feedback on that. The second indicator is is in the planning, and it will be carried out next year, and is sort of first to come up with a definition of what it means of having systems to support and to protect and promote the mental health and psychosocial well-being of staff and volunteers. And then based on that also to promote having systems in place for national societies and the other movement components. And the third indicator is the kind of number of joint activities to support movement components in carrying out awareness raising activities with leadership. And there we have several ongoing activities. This is the kind of activity or indicator that we've been working on most, I would say. And we have developed key messages for managers and leaders. We have the first draft. We'll use them tomorrow. For the roundtable, we had tried to insert them there in different ways, and I hope you will hear them tomorrow, that the leaders actually read the key messages we send them and prepare for them. The second activity and indicator, corresponding indicator, is been to have draft proposal on what kind of training, the content of a training for managers and leaders, or tool, we're kind of defining what that's going to be, and also budget that we have now presented to the steering committee for the consideration for next year. And also the last one was this roundtable that we will have tomorrow. That one of the topics that will be discussed will be the topic that has to do, that we're kind of working on in this working group. So what we have concluded and achieved is, you can see that in the screen. I'm not going to go through everything. It's been for all the activities that we've done this year. So from selecting the working group members and getting the team space going and the TOR to actually developing the proposal that I just mentioned. I wanted to talk a little bit more, and Ines, you can help me afterwards as well, on the challenges and risks that we have. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we kind of lost a little bit. Well, we lost some of the national societies that signed and were participating in the first two meetings, and they are mainly in African national societies and MENA. So we have limited regional representation. It's just Asia, Pacific, Americas, and Europe. So we need to improve that. We also see as a challenge not having a platform, community practice, whatever you want to call it. It's been raised before by other working groups where we can communicate with you guys here across the table and the other participants that are there online. And that's something that we see as a risk in terms of being more effective all the way to 2023. The insecure funding is also an issue for us, whether we could actually continue with the activities that we would like to do. For instance, developing a training, an e-learning or some sort of digital tool, whether we can have a platform to communicate, whatever that shape and form that takes. Also very much depends on whether we have a budget to cover those costs for next year. And finally, also the challenges around overall coordination with the other working groups that go beyond, and we will discuss them more in detail in this afternoon and I guess tomorrow as well, go beyond not having a platform as well. And this is, of course, for a myriad of reasons. And the way forward for us so far, at least for next year, would be to continue working on the activities that we have identified. Hopefully, inshallah, if we get the funding for that. Also to link with other stakeholders for the development of the training, both within the movement and outside. We're also planning to link with the other working groups to encourage them to also join us in promoting a platform and to discuss what would be the best options for that, who will host it and who will also maintain it, which will be the main thing, I think. And finally, also in cooperation with the other national societies, the other working groups, and the ICRC, the Federation, of course, the PS Center, to explore recruiting other national societies or re-engaging with the ones that we kind of lost in Africa and MENA, or sharing. I don't know if sharing is the right word, but you know what I mean. Also, it sounds a bit dodgy, but you know, like kind of, finding ways of utilizing the national societies that are very active and perhaps giving us feedback in different ways, not maybe actively being in the working group, but finding other creative ways that I can't come up with right now, but I'm sure that we together can find ways to do that. So this is pretty much it. And before I leave the floor to Ines, I realize now that I haven't prepared any perks to kind of convince you to join these working groups, because my other colleagues have been so good at this. But I wrote the email addresses of Ines and me here. So if you're interested in joining, so please let us know here in the chat, or just reach out to Ines and me, and we'll be super happy and excited that you want to do that.